The lawyer was already sitting in Blake Hartwell's office when I walked in. So was a security guard. I was 59 years old. I had worked for Hartwell Utility Systems for 31 years, and my retirement bonus became payable the next morning. Blake fired me at 9:09. He considered me old, expensive, and replaceable. What he did not know was that the company's reputation with its best clients rested largely on my word. Its most important professional qualification was tied to my name, and the $48 million contract he had promised his investors could not move forward without my authorization. He thought he was cutting one costly employee. He had actually removed the support, holding up his own future. Blake pointed to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down, Ray." I sat. The lawyer was a man named Coleman. He had been advising Blake since an investment firm bought part of the company 6 months earlier. The guard was Dylan Moore, 26 years old and new to Hartwell. Dylan would not look at me. That told me the meeting had been planned down to the last detail. Blake opened a folder. "We've completed an internal review concerning your handling of proprietary information." "What information?" "Vendor contacts, historical pricing, client details, project records stored outside approved company systems." For most of my career, I had kept field notebooks and copies of critical project documents. Harold Hartwell knew about them. So did every senior superintendent. I started keeping records after the office lost months of job files during a computer failure in the late 90s. My notebooks contained measurements missing from drawings, old equipment specifications, landowner preferences, inspection notes, and warnings about buried utilities nobody had entered into the company system. Those records had saved Hartwell hundreds of thousands of dollars. Blake had issued a new information policy 5 weeks earlier. Most field employees received it by email and clicked a box confirming they had opened it. Now he was using that policy to accuse me of misconduct. "You're saying my field records are a firing offense?" I asked. "You retained company information outside authorized systems. The same records your father asked me to keep?" "My father no longer runs this company." The lawyer slid a letter toward me. "Your employment is terminated immediately for cause," Blake said. "Under the retirement agreement, a termination for misconduct cancels the bonus and supplemental severance." The amount was $420,000. My wife, Anne, and I had planned around that money for years. We owned an old stone house near Llano. The roof leaked, the porch had dropped on one side, and the barn needed rebuilding. Anne wanted us to restore it after I retired. Then she got cancer. Before she died, I promised I would finish the house, set aside money for our daughter and grandson, and take Anne's ashes to Big Bend, where we had spent part of our honeymoon. I postponed retirement twice because Harold said the company needed me. Now his son was firing me less than 24 hours before the money became mine. "Did Harold approve this?" I asked. Blake's expression tightened. "My father does not participate in personnel matters." That wasn't what I asked. "The decision is final." Outside the glass wall, I could see the operations floor. People were pretending not to watch. Leon Briggs, my most experienced superintendent, had both hands flat on his desk. Denise at reception had stopped typing. Blake leaned back. "Don't take this personally. You've just become too expensive." I took the company keys off my belt. The warehouse, the yard gate, the control shop, the equipment lot, and the old brass key to Harold's first office. I placed them on Blake's desk. "Then try running the company without me." Blake gave a small smile. "I believe we can manage." Dylan opened the door. He carried an empty cardboard box because company procedure required it, even though I had not been allowed to collect anything from my desk. The walk through the building took less than 3 minutes. It was long enough. Employees looked at screens, papers, or the floor. Nobody wanted Blake to see them watching. Along the hallway hung photographs of major Hartwell projects. The South Creek pump station, where I caught a design error that would have flooded a rancher's lower pasture. The Redstone expansion, which I took over after the first superintendent quit. The Nolan County Emergency Project, completed early after a tornado damaged the electrical building. My name was not on the plaques. Harold's was. Blake stood behind the office glass and watched me walk past all three. At the front door, Dylan stopped. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell. You didn't make the decision. It doesn't feel right." "No. Are you going to fight them?" I looked back once. Blake was already talking to the lawyer. "I'm going to let them run the company." Then I walked out. I did not call Harold. I did not post anything online. I did not threaten Blake or send an angry email. Construction disputes teach a man something useful. The person who loses control first usually gives the other side evidence. At home, I put the termination letter on my dining table and read it twice. Then I opened a fireproof document case I had kept in the hall closet for 11 years. Inside were licensing records, insurance agreements, letters from Harold, and one original contract signed in 2015. I read that contract carefully. Then I called Ellen Price, an attorney I had trusted for nearly 20 years. "Aren't you retiring tomorrow?" she asked. That was the arrangement. "What happened?" "They fired me this morning." "For what?" "A policy they wrote 5 weeks ago." "How close were you to the bonus?" "Less than a day." She went quiet. "That sounds deliberate." It was. "What do you have?" I looked at the old agreement, something Blake should have read before he fired me. The next morning, Blake explained my termination to Hartwell's management team. I learned the details later from 2 men who attended. He said my position had become redundant. He showed a presentation estimating annual savings of almost $400,000 between salary, benefits, vehicle expenses, retirement obligations, and administrative costs. The numbers looked good. That was Blake's strength. He could make a dangerous decision look intelligent when it appeared in a clean spreadsheet. Calder Ridge Capital, the investment firm that owned a minority share of Hartwell, praised him for reducing legacy labor costs. Their people had been pushing him to cut older employees for months. Men like me cost more because we had retirement plans, decent insurance, and enough experience to challenge bad schedules. At 10 that morning, Henry Boone called Blake. Henry owned Boone Electrical Supply and had worked with Hartwell for 27 years. He later told me exactly what was said. "I heard Ray Mitchell is gone." Blake told him I had retired early. Henry knew that was false. He changed Hartwell's credit terms from 90 days to 30. Blake objected. Henry said, "Those terms existed because Ray answered the phone when something went wrong." "I run the company," Blake replied. "You own the company," Henry said. "That isn't the same thing." By the end of the week, 2 suppliers had requested updated financial information. A municipal engineer demanded additional quality control documentation. A landowner delayed an access agreement until Hartwell named the person who would restore his property after construction. I had not asked anyone to punish the company. I had called the people I had worked with for years and said one thing: "I'm no longer with Hartwell, so I can no longer personally guarantee the quality of their work." That was enough. For 31 years, Hartwell had placed its logo on promises I made. Now I was telling people those promises no longer came with the logo. The company did not collapse. Blake had active contracts, cash, equipment, and investors. He believed the concern would fade. For a while, his numbers still looked strong. Then Leon resigned. Leon Briggs was 62 years old and knew underground utility work better than any man I had met. He placed his company phone on Blake's desk. "You're 4 years from full pension," Blake told him. "I know. You're giving that up because Ray was terminated? I'm leaving because you fired him one day before retirement. You don't know the facts. I know how calendars work." Blake warned him that if he left, Hartwell would never rehire him. Leon answered, "I worked here before you knew what this company built." 2 days later, Blake promoted Cody Vance. Cody was 31, organized, energetic, and good with scheduling software. He was not a fool. That mattered. Blake's downfall did not begin because he hired idiots. It began because he treated limited experience as if it were complete experience. A week after Cody took over, Hartwell ordered a motor control cabinet for the Keller Ridge project. The cabinet was built from the original electronic drawings. It arrived 6 inches too wide for the electrical room. I had found that discrepancy during a renovation 8 years earlier and written it in a field notebook. Nobody had corrected the drawing. Returning the cabinet cost Hartwell $78,000 and delayed the project 5 weeks. Then Cody scheduled concrete before the city inspector approved the embedded conduit. 3 trucks were already on site when the pour was stopped. Blake called both problems transition costs. Calder Ridge accepted the explanation. The savings still looked larger than the mistakes. While Blake was explaining those delays, Ellen and I reviewed the documents in my case. The retirement claim was strong, but it would take time. The other agreement mattered immediately. Hartwell performed general utility construction, and Texas does not have one statewide license covering every general contractor. But one major part of Hartwell's business involved regulated electrical systems inside municipal water and wastewater facilities. We installed pump controls, emergency generators, motor control centers, and distribution equipment. For that work, Hartwell operated through an electrical contractor license tied to a designated master electrician. In 2015, Hartwell's previous designated master left during a compliance problem. Without a qualified replacement, the company could not continue bidding the electrical portion of major municipal projects. I already held a Texas master electrician license and had decades of experience on water systems. Harold asked me to become Hartwell's designated master. I agreed. Because the company's insurer and surety considered my qualifications critical, they required a written continuity agreement. My professional authorization ended immediately if I resigned, was terminated, or withdrew in writing. Harold also promised that my retirement package and position would be protected because I was accepting personal professional risk on behalf of the company. Blake had apparently never read the agreement. Ellen tapped my termination letter. "Your authorization ended the moment they fired you. Can they finish current projects? Some work can continue under proper transition arrangements, subcontractors, or a qualified replacement. But they cannot represent you as their current qualifying professional." What about the Brazos Valley bid? That was the contract Blake had been promising investors. The Brazos Valley Regional Water Authority was preparing a $48 million resilience project involving 3 pumping stations, emergency power systems, and major electrical controls. Hartwell had pursued it for almost 2 years. The final bid required more than a current license holder. The named electrical professional needed documented responsibility for at least 3 comparable municipal projects. Hartwell had the projects. I had supervised them. Notify the licensing office, the insurer, and the surety. Ellen said, "I thought about the men still employed at Hartwell. This won't shut down everything tomorrow?" "No. But they cannot use your authority after terminating you." I looked at Harold's signature on the old agreement. "Send the notices." By Friday, Hartwell's insurer had requested a meeting. The surety company placed new bonded electrical work under review. The state licensing file needed to be updated. The Brazos Valley Procurement Office asked Hartwell to confirm its key electrical professional. That was when Harold called me. I let the call go to voicemail. "Ray," he said, "call me before Blake makes this worse." I did not return it. Blake had already made it worse. He simply had not reached the expensive part yet. 2 weeks after my firing, Simon Vale offered me a job. Simon ran Hartwell's largest regional competitor. He offered me an executive position, $280,000 a year, full benefits, a company truck, and a $300,000 signing bonus. He also wanted to use my project history in his company's Brazos Valley bid. The offer solved nearly every immediate problem I had. I could protect my savings, restore the Yano house, and watch Hartwell lose from inside a larger company. I almost accepted. Then I pictured another office with another man's name above the door. I had spent 31 years building value for the Hartwell family. I did not want to spend what remained of my career building value for Simon Vale. I pushed the offer back. "You want more money?" Simon asked. "No." "Then what do you want?" "For once, I want the name on the door to belong to the people doing the work." "You're starting a company at 59? I'm considering it." "You just turned down more than $500,000 in first-year compensation." "I noticed." He leaned back. "You could help me finish Hartwell." "I'm not interested in finishing Hartwell." "What are you interested in?" "Building something Blake can't inherit." When I left that meeting, I had no job, no guaranteed income, and no certainty anyone would finance me. What would you have done in my place? Taken the money and let a competitor handle the fight? Or risked everything to build something of your own? I leased an old warehouse on the south side of Fort Worth. The roof leaked. The roll-up door needed 2 men to lift it. We had folding tables, used computers, a tired forklift, and a coffee machine that spilled more water than it brewed. Leon joined me first. Maria Alvarez came next. Blake had eliminated her contract administration job after calling it unnecessary overhead. She understood public bids and insurance requirements better than anyone Hartwell still employed. Tasha Green handled safety. She had spent 20 years stopping supervisors from turning tight schedules into injured workers. Tyler Dunn was not there yet. He stayed at Hartwell because his wife was ill and he needed the insurance. I understood. There were 7 of us on the first morning. I put a hand-painted sign on the table. Second shift construction. Leon read it. "Sounds like night work." "We've all been told our useful years are over," I said. "I figure that means the first shift ended." Maria nodded toward the sign. "So this is the second." "That's the idea." We incorporated the company, bought used equipment, and began pursuing work that was legally open. I did not ask clients to break Hartwell contracts. I did not use confidential bids. We went after emergency repairs, public work, and private jobs where owners were free to choose. Trust got us meetings. It did not get us financing. Our first major opportunity was a $3 million pump station rehabilitation. The owner liked our team. The engineer gave us the highest technical score. Then the surety company refused to issue the required performance bond. Second shift had no operating history, no audited financial statements, and too little collateral. The project went to another contractor. 3 days later, the transmission failed in our used boring rig. The repair cost was $86,000. Payroll was due in 9 days. Maria brought me the cash flow sheet. "We can make this payroll," she said. "The next one depends on new revenue." "What about the hospital upgrade?" "The client chose a larger firm. They were worried we might not survive the project." I looked across the warehouse at the people who had trusted me enough to leave stable work. I had turned down Simon's offer and invested most of my available savings. Now those people were depending on me. That night I drove to the property near Llano. The stone house Anne wanted restored looked worse than I remembered. Selling it would have covered months of payroll. It would also have erased the last promise I made her. I did not sell. The next morning I called every small water district within 200 miles. I offered emergency repairs, control replacements, generator testing, pump alignment, and shutdown work. The jobs were too small or inconvenient for larger contractors. They were exactly the kind of jobs we knew how to do. Leon reorganized a rural district's shutdown and cut 6 hours from the outage. Tasha corrected a confined space plan before an inspector rejected it. Maria negotiated deposits instead of waiting 60 days for full payment. I used part of my retirement savings to repair the boring rig. For 6 weeks, we took every honest job we could perform well. Those jobs gave us completed projects, invoices, and client references. Henry Boone spoke directly to a local banker. He did not exaggerate our position. He said, "Ray Mitchell has never promised me a payment he did not make." We received a modest credit line. It was not enough to relax. It was enough to survive. Back at Hartwell, Blake hired Preston Shaw as the new designated master electrician. Preston held the correct license and could legally support ordinary regulated work. But he had spent most of his career in commercial buildings. He had never led electrical construction on a municipal water system. He could not provide the project history needed for the $48 million bid. That was when Blake called me. "I want to resolve the misunderstanding surrounding your departure." "What misunderstanding?" "The policy review moved too quickly. You had a lawyer and security waiting. I'm prepared to restore your retirement bonus." "Then restore it." "In exchange for a 30-day consulting agreement." "No. You would review the Brazos submission and certify your historical projects. I will not certify work I do not control. The projects belong to Hartwell. The records do. My authorization does not. We can add a consulting fee." "No?" "Name a price." "It isn't about price." His voice hardened. "You're making a business matter personal. You fired me one day before retirement. That decision was based on policy. Then stand behind it." He ended the call. 2 days later, Hartwell's lawyers sent a formal offer. Full bonus, full severance, $200,000 in consulting compensation, no admission of wrongdoing. All I had to do was sign the Brazos certifications. I declined. Then the offer became a threat. Hartwell accused me of taking confidential information, interfering with clients, and stealing employees. Ellen answered with dates and documents. Leon had resigned before I hired him. Maria had been terminated months earlier. Our projects were open for bidding or came from clients free to choose. We returned every company record Hartwell could identify as its property. I kept my personal licensing files and documents Ellen told me to preserve. Blake also pressured suppliers. Some backed away from us. One canceled a material reservation, costing Second Shift a medical facility project. Henry Boone did not back away. He gave us 45-day terms. When Blake complained, Henry said, "You cannot demand loyalty after proving you do not return it." Hartwell still appeared healthy from the outside. Blake had cut payroll, training, maintenance, and benefits. The quarterly margins improved. Calder Ridge praised him. The delayed costs had not yet reached the reports. Then Tyler Dunn came to my warehouse after work. Tyler was 38 and had stayed at Hartwell because his wife needed medical care. He had avoided my eyes when security walked me out. "I should have said something that day," he told me. "You had a family to protect." I still knew it was wrong. "What happened?" He handed me a disciplinary notice. At the Fairview station, Cody had installed a bypass assembly with the wrong pressure rating. An inspector caught it before startup. Blake blamed the supplier and ordered Tyler to change the internal inspection date so the paperwork looked correct. Tyler refused. Blake wrote him up for resisting management. "You looking for work?" I asked. "I'm looking for a place where telling the truth isn't treated like misconduct." I hired him. He brought no company files, client lists, or pricing. He brought experience and a copy of the write-up Blake had given him. His departure hurt Hartwell. Tyler understood Blake's new project software better than the younger managers who remained. Without him, change orders went late and field reports became unreliable. A week later, Harold came to see me. He stood in our warehouse while Leon reviewed a schedule and Tasha trained 2 new employees. The place looked like Hartwell had when I joined. Small, poor, useful. "I should have stopped Blake," Harold said. "Yes. I thought he needed authority. He needed supervision. I was afraid he would walk away from the company. So you let him push everyone else out." Harold looked down. "I came to ask you to return for 1 month. No. Your pension, your bonus, full severance, a public apology. I'll give you an ownership stake." "You had 31 years to offer ownership. I was wrong. Yes. The Brazos contract could save the company. That is not my responsibility anymore. Hundreds of employees depend on Hartwell. I know. I'm hiring every qualified one I can afford." Harold looked around the warehouse. "Ray, help me save what we built." "What we built? You know what I mean. I know you watched your son fire me one day before retirement. I didn't know he planned to do it that morning. You knew afterward." He had no answer. "You didn't fire an old employee," I said. "You fired the man your business depended on." Harold's voice dropped. "I'm asking as your friend. A friend would have been in that office before the security guard." He nodded slowly. "I let fear make the decision." "Yes. And now everyone pays for it. That part was Blake's decision. Your part was allowing him to believe nobody would stop him." Harold left without asking again. A few days later, the Brazos Valley Authority released its final requirements. Each bidder had to name a key electrical professional with direct responsibility for at least 3 comparable municipal projects. That person had to authorize the use of his credentials and confirm availability through contract award and mobilization. Preston could serve as Hartwell's current master electrician. He could not claim my project record. Without it, Hartwell would not reach the minimum qualification score. Blake called one more time. "Your bonus has been placed in escrow," he said. "I never agreed to escrow. You'll receive it when the certification is completed." That money was already due. "This is your last chance to resolve the dispute privately." "No, Blake. It is your last chance to submit an honest bid." He hung up. 2 days later, I received an automated message from the Brazos Valley procurement portal. The email thanked me for being listed as Hartwell's key electrical professional and asked me to review a certification connected to my credentials. I opened it in Ellen's office. My name was at the top. My license number was correct. The document said I had reviewed Hartwell's submission, authorized the use of my project history, and agreed to remain available through mobilization. At the bottom was my signature. It looked real because it had once been real. Someone had copied it from a certification I signed 18 months earlier for a different project. They changed the project name. They changed the date. They did not ask me. Ellen read the document. "Did you authorize this?" "No." "Did you sign anything after your termination?" "No." She reached for the phone. "We notify the authority now." I looked at the status line. Draft. Pending final certification. "Not yet. They copied your signature. If we confront Blake now, he can remove it, blame a clerk, and claim no false document was officially submitted. You want him to certify it. I want him to make the decision after he has clear written notice." I was not creating fraud. Blake had already copied my signature. But until the bid became final, he could replace the document. Ellen sent a formal notice to Blake, Harold, Hartwell's general counsel, the insurer, and the surety. It stated that my authority ended on the date of termination. It stated that I had not approved the use of my signature, license, or project history. It ordered Hartwell to remove any claim that I remained available. We received confirmation that Blake opened the notice. I also informed the procurement office that the draft certification was unauthorized. The officer said no formal challenge could be evaluated until Hartwell submitted its final bid. Blake had 4 days to correct it. I waited. Later, Hartwell's general counsel confirmed what happened during those 4 days. He told Blake to remove my name. The insurer asked for proof of consent. Harold warned him that the original agreement prohibited the use. Calder Ridge did not want Hartwell to revise the bid because losing my project history would destroy the qualification score. Blake insisted I was negotiating. He said I would never risk bringing down the company I had helped build. He still believed my loyalty would protect him from his own choices. At 4:51 on Friday afternoon, Hartwell certified the bid. My copied signature became part of the official record. 12 minutes later, Ellen filed the challenge. Second Shift submitted its own proposal that morning. Our price was higher than Hartwell's. It was also higher than Simon Vale's. We included realistic overtime, backup equipment, added testing, and money for underground conditions missing from the drawings. Our estimate was not designed to win a spreadsheet contest. It was designed to finish the job. We still had a major obstacle. Second Shift was new. We had the qualifications and crew, but the authority questioned whether our balance sheet could support a $48 million project. The surety company demanded more collateral. The only substantial asset I had left was the Llano property. Maria told me not to risk it. If the project fails, you could lose Anne's house. I know. We can walk away from this bid and keep building slowly. She was right, but the contract would allow us to hire experienced workers Hartwell had pushed aside. It would fund apprenticeships, retirement plans, and enough equipment to make Second Shift last beyond me. I placed the property into a collateral trust. That frightened me more than Blake's threats ever had. The final qualification hearing took place 6 weeks later outside Waco. Hartwell sat at one table. Second Shift sat at another. Blake had 2 lawyers, polished presentation boards, and representatives from Calder Ridge. Harold sat in the second row, apart from his son. At our table were Ellen, Maria, Leon, Tasha, Tyler, and me. Before the hearing began, Blake stopped beside my chair. You can still withdraw the challenge. You can admit the certification was false. You know what disqualification will do to Hartwell. I know what your submission can do to Hartwell. You built that company. I helped build it. And now you're trying to destroy it. No, I'm asking the authority to read what you signed. He looked at our Second Shift display. You think they'll award $48 million to a company operating from an old warehouse. I think they'll award it to the team best able to perform. That won't be you. Hartwell presented first. Blake was effective. He spoke about cost control, digital project management, growth, and 35 years of experience. His charts showed improved margins. His photographs showed successful municipal projects. I had supervised 4 of the 6 projects on the boards. Then he addressed our challenge. He described me as a bitter former employee, terminated for misconduct. He said I had taken Hartwell workers, alarmed clients, and used relationships developed at company expense to weaken a family business. For a few minutes, his argument worked. One official asked whether I had contacted Hartwell clients after my firing. Yes. Did you encourage them to suspend contracts? No. What did you tell them? That I was no longer with Hartwell and could no longer personally guarantee work I did not control. Hartwell's lawyer stood. You knew that statement would cause concern. I knew it was true. Blake leaned toward his microphone. Hartwell paid Mr. Mitchell for 31 years. The company gave him access to the relationships he is now using against us. I looked at him. Hartwell used my name every time a project was in trouble. It cannot call me irrelevant when firing me in company property when it needs my credibility. The chair stopped the exchange. This panel is not deciding an employment dispute. We are determining whether each bidder satisfies the qualification requirements. She turned to Ellen. Do you have evidence supporting the challenge beyond Mr. Mitchell's denial? Yes. Ellen handed a folder to the clerk. Copies went to the panel, Hartwell's lawyers, the insurer, and the surety representative. I did not make a speech. The documents were enough. The first was the 2015 qualification agreement. It identified me as Hartwell's designated master electrician for regulated electrical work. It stated that my authority ended immediately upon termination, resignation, or written withdrawal. The second was my termination letter. The date was clear. The third was the policy Blake accused me of violating. It had been issued 5 weeks before I was fired. The fourth was an email Ellen obtained during my retirement claim. Blake had sent it to Hartwell's finance director 3 weeks before the supposed investigation. He asked for the final date on which I could be terminated without triggering the retirement bonus. The answer was the day he fired me. One of the Calder Ridge representatives turned toward Blake. The fifth document was Ellen's formal notice stating that Hartwell did not have permission to use my name, license, signature, or professional history. Blake's electronic receipt was attached. The sixth was Hartwell's certified bid. My name, my license number, my project record, a statement that I remained available, and my copied signature, dated 7 weeks after Hartwell escorted me out. The room went silent. Hartwell's lead lawyer bent toward Blake. The surety representative began reviewing the agreement. 2 investors whispered to each other. Harold stared at the certified bid. The panel chair looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, did you sign this document? No. Did you authorize anyone to apply your signature? No. Were you employed by Hartwell on the date shown? No. Had Hartwell received written notice that you did not approve this certification? Yes. She turned to Blake. How was the signature obtained? Blake looked at his lawyer. The lawyer did not answer. The certification was based on an existing project document, Blake said. That does not answer the question. Our compliance staff adapted prior qualification material. Did Mr. Mitchell authorize the signature? The experience was gained while he worked for Hartwell. Did he authorize the signature? Blake's jaw tightened. We believed his previous agreement required cooperation. Ellen stood. No such requirement exists. The authority's general counsel spoke. Did Hartwell receive the revocation notice before submitting the final bid? The notice was disputed, Blake said. Was it received? Yes. Did you submit the certification afterward? Blake turned toward me. You waited. Yes. You saw the draft and waited until we submitted it. My attorney sent written notice. You could have stopped this privately. You had 4 days to remove my name. You wanted the company disqualified. I wanted you to make an honest decision after you knew the facts. He raised his voice. This was a trap. I leaned toward the microphone. Then show them my authorization. He could not. The panel stopped Hartwell's presentation. Calder Ridge demanded a conference with Blake. The insurer requested the complete bid record. The surety company reserved its rights. Harold remained in his seat. He looked at me once. He finally understood the company might be finished, not because I had taken something from it, because his son had used something that was never his. Hartwell received 24 hours to produce proof that I authorized the certification. It produced nothing. The next afternoon, the authority disqualified Hartwell and referred the submission for procurement and licensing review. That did not give Second Shift the contract. We still had to earn it. The authority questioned our finances, staffing, safety procedures, equipment, schedule, and subcontractors. Tasha presented a job-specific safety plan for electrical work, trenches, confined spaces, and live system shutdowns. Leon identified 2 sequencing conflicts the design team had missed. Tyler demonstrated how we would document field changes before they became disputed costs. Maria presented supplier commitments, insurance records, and our financing plan. I defended our higher price. "We are not the cheapest number," I said. "We are the number we believe can finish the work without hiding known risks." Simon Vale's company had more capital and a lower bid, but its schedule depended on equipment dates the manufacturer had not guaranteed. Another bidder underestimated the labor required during system shutdowns. Our proposal was conservative. It was also complete. 3 weeks later, Maria brought me the phone while I was helping Leon move a cabinet. The Brazos Valley Authority intended to award the $48 million contract to Second Shift Construction, subject to final bonding. I listened until the procurement director finished. Then I lowered the phone. Leon looked at me. "Well, we got it." For 2 seconds, nobody moved. Then the warehouse erupted. Tasha hugged Maria. Tyler sat down and covered his face. Leon held out his hand. I took it. Then he pulled me into a hug. That evening, I drove to Llano and sat on the broken porch Anne had wanted restored. I placed the award notice on the chair beside me. "We finally built our own," I said. Hartwell did not collapse that day. The damage arrived in stages. The insurer suspended new coverage while it investigated the false certification. The surety company froze Hartwell's bonding authority. Calder Ridge stopped investing and ordered an audit. The audit showed Blake had treated the Brazos Valley contract as nearly guaranteed in forecasts given to investors. It also showed that some of his improved margins came from delayed maintenance, reduced training, understaffed projects, and bills pushed into later quarters. Clients requested new qualification records. Several moved their electrical work elsewhere. Suppliers shortened payment terms. Calder Ridge removed Blake. Harold tried to regain control, but confidence was already gone. Hartwell sold equipment, then its service division. A regional contractor bought what remained for a fraction of the company's former value. The Hartwell name disappeared from the trucks. Blake settled civil claims connected to the investor disclosures and unauthorized certification. He was restricted from certain public contracting roles. Other companies stopped trusting him. Second Shift spent the next year doing the work. We encountered buried structures that appeared on no plans. Rain delayed excavation. A generator manufacturer missed a delivery. One subcontractor failed a safety review and had to be replaced. We documented the problems, told the client early, and adjusted the plan. The first pumping station finished 11 days ahead of the revised schedule. We hired experienced Hartwell workers as positions became available. We also hired apprentices and placed them beside older craftsmen instead of pretending software had replaced judgment. Leon trained 2 assistant superintendents. Tasha had authority to stop any job, including mine. Maria became chief operating officer. Tyler managed field records and never changed a date to please management. We established profit sharing and retirement benefits. The warehouse got a new roof. The damaged coffee machine stayed in a corner with a brass plate Leon ordered. First piece of equipment. We retired on time. 1 year after my firing, Blake came to my office looking for work. The receptionist did not recognize him. I watched him fill out an application at one of the folding tables we had used when second shift began. His resume listed executive leadership, strategic planning, and financial restructuring. The section for practical certifications was empty. I invited him into my office. "What position are you looking for?" I asked. "Management. We don't have an opening." "Project coordination? That requires field experience." "I ran Hartwell." "You held authority at Hartwell. That is not the same as knowing the work." His face tightened, but he stayed seated. "I can learn." That was the first useful thing he said. "Why second shift?" "No one else will hire me." "That explains why you came. It does not explain why I should hire you." He looked down. "My father thought you might give me a chance." "Your father does not make decisions here. I made mistakes." "You made decisions after people warned you." He nodded. "Yes." I opened his application. "Can you read electrical plans?" "Not well." "Operate equipment?" "No." "Set grade?" "No." "Prepare a material takeoff without software?" "No." "Current first aid certification?" "No." "What can you do on a job site?" He looked through the office window at Leon directing a crew. "I don't know yet." For the first time since I had known him, Blake answered without pretending. I took a job description from my desk. Entry-level field assistant, morning shift, material handling, equipment cleaning, traffic control, safety training, and supervised field support. Who would I report to? Tyler Dunn. He used to report to me. He knows the work. Blake read the page. "How much does it pay?" $18.25 an hour. He stared at me. "That's all?" "That is the starting wage you approved for new laborers after eliminating Hartwell's apprenticeship scale." I slid the paper across the desk. "Don't take it personally. You just don't know how to do anything yet." I did not smile. I did not call security. I gave him time to read. "Why offer me anything?" he asked. "Because this company does not throw people away for needing to learn." "Do you trust me?" "No." That answer surprised him. "Trust is earned here. You will work under supervision, follow the safety rules, and tell the truth when you make a mistake. If you cannot do that, you will not stay." He looked at the offer. "What time does the morning shift start?" 6:30. "I'll be here." Was I right to offer Blake a job? Some people told me I should have sent him away. Maybe they were right. I did not offer him authority, forgiveness, or an easy path back. I offered him the chance to learn what he should have learned before he tried to lead people who knew more than he did. My real victory was not watching Hartwell fail. It was seeing Leon train a 20-year-old apprentice. It was watching Maria sign payroll from an office nobody could eliminate with a spreadsheet. It was giving Tyler a company where refusing to falsify a record made him valuable. It was restoring Anne's house, securing my family's future, and driving to work beneath a steel sign that read, "Second Shift Construction." Hartwell had owned the trucks, buildings, and contracts. But a company cannot inherit another man's credibility. Trust stays with the person who earned it, one honest decision at a time.